Trans Am's love affair with Lime Rock Park began in 1967, and ever since, this fabulous circuit in northwestern Connecticut has served as the traditional finale to each year's celebration of speed on Memorial Day weekend. Horsepower raids from the plains of Kansas, the hallowed grounds of Indianapolis, and in the heart of stock car country in Charlotte. Today, those places are peaceful and the champions have been crowned. But here at Lime Rock, the SCCA Trans Am cars are just getting started as they cap off America's greatest weekend of racing next on Speed. Just 7 days ago in Mossport, it was a perfect day for racing. Today here at Lime Rock Park, it's one of those days racing drivers hate. This is round 4 of the Trans Am series for the BF Goodrich Tyres Cup. Hello everyone, I'm Lee Diffie along with Bill Adam. Welcome to Lime Rock Park here in northwestern Connecticut. Well, these usually picturesque surrounds aren't so pretty today. The weather certainly has turned on us. A lot of history being celebrated here this weekend, Bill. This is the 23rd year of Trans Am racing here at this historic circuit, and sometimes it's days like this that create that history.
Yeah, I think days like this you want to forget because it's quite frankly no fun to try and put 700 horsepower down on a slippery track. And this track historically has always been diabolical. You can see behind us, there's puddles forming down the middle of the straight where the two lines of asphalt join up. You hit one of those puddles the wrong time, you're backwards into the guardrail.
We've got Trans Am stars, we've got former Champ Car stars, we've got young rookies on the way up. Who's going to be strong today?
Well, I think on a day like today with visibility so bad and the conditions so treacherous, you've got to go with experience. Somebody like a Stu Hainer. Stu maybe is in a doubly good position that he's got the incentive of almost winning last year, getting it snatched away at the last minute. But also, he's talented, very smooth in the rain. Somebody like a Hainer could win today.
All right, let's take a look at the points after 3 rounds so far in the 2003 season. And with 2 wins and a third is the reason why Scott Pruitt sits atop the point standings. Johnny Miller, who should be strong this weekend, is right there with him. Lewis, after his podium position in Mossport, he's up there. And what about the rookie sensation, Jorge Diaz Jr.? He is right in there as well. We look back at the bottom in the top 10 and another rookie in there, Bobby Sack behind Sed and Hainer and Randy Ruhlman and Simon Gregg rounding out the top 10. Well, the Rocket Sports team is still the team to beat, and telling us more about that, here's Calvin Fish.
Lee, in the first 3 races of this Trans Am season, pole position has been the sole property of this man, Scott Pruitt, our championship leader. But here at Lime Rock, he'll start from the outside of the front row. The man on the pole is his teammate, Johnny Miller. He's been in sensational form all weekend long, rain or shine, pole position by over half a second. But Johnny, the rain is heavier than we've seen all weekend long, mate. Your thoughts going into today's race?
Hey, if we can see, we're going to fly, you know. We've had a great car all weekend and been up front all weekend. And, you know, the temperature that's coming in with this front and this heavy downpour has kind of affected some of the defoggers. But I think we got it whipped, and we'll be moving today.
Been looking strong all weekend long. 3 podium finishes. He looks for that top spot this afternoon, Brian Till, but many other fast guys in this field today.
Oh, absolutely, Calvin. You know, one of the guys is Stu Hainer. He qualified on the pole last year. Looked like he had the thing won, but snake bit, I think, is the only term that you could use. But another guy in the field and knows how to go fast, win championships, and win here at Lime Rock is Brian Simo. He makes his return. Brian, you picked a heck of a time to come back, buddy.
Yeah, nice day here at Lime Rock. It's a good day to return to Trans Am racing, but I'm really excited. I'll take it anywhere I can get it.
Well, he's been fast all weekend long. Simo, he's back. It should be a good one. 3 past race winners in this field. Should be good, Lee.
Yeah, we welcome Brian back. We also welcome back as what could be his very last race. One of Hollywood's greats, Paul Newman, is racing today. These big horsepower cars, the wet weather, this will be like dancing on ice. Lime Rock 2002 saw Stu Hainer on the pole for the first of 2 times last year, but it was Butch Leitzinger in his Glory Racing Corvette who led for the first 11 laps. It was then time for Rocket Sports team owner Paul Gentilozzi to lead for the majority of this race. He led for 34 laps in total. Pit stop time, and it was during this pit stop that Gentilozzi lost the lead and handed it over to Stu Hainer in his Revolution Motorsports Corvette. Hainer set the fastest lap of the race, but with just 6 laps remaining, his engine let go, and Boris Said inherited not only the lead, but the win in his ACS Express Panos Esperante. It was his 2nd consecutive victory, in total 8 wins last year. Welcome, folks. Welcome to a very wet Lime Rock Park here in Lakeville, Connecticut. Round 4 of the Trans Am Series for the BF Goodrich Tyres Cup. We know this place is slick, it's slippery, but Bill, talk us through the finer points of this circuit.
Well, Lime Rock is only a little over a mile and a half long, but it is probably the busiest mile and a half in this country. Notice that most of the corners are all right-handers, only one exception, turn 3, and the two criticals being turns 7 and 1. You desperately need a good launch off 7, carry a lot of speed down, and then outbrake somebody into 1. But the big challenge is elevation here. This is a track where you come up over the crest of hill, and look at Scott Pruitt's car. Look at the front wheels completely off the ground. He is trying desperately to keep hard throttle under it. And you'll hear, we're going to go on board again and listen to his viewpoint. Now just listen here. Hear the wheel spin. If you get under throttle at the wrong time, the car goes sideways, it snaps into the guardrail, your race is over.
This is how they will line up today. Third time in his career, Johnny Lightning, Johnny Miller grabs the pole. It's an all Rocket Sports front row. Scott Pruitt, our points leader, starts outside. We take a look back to row 2. Stu Hainer, last year's pole sitter. That's his best grid spot for this year. And Brian Simo, what does the 2000 champion have for us today? Row 3, the best rookie in the field so far on points, Jorge Diaz. He starts on row 3 alongside the other rookie, Bobby Sack. Back to row 4, Tommy Dreesy, Michael Lewis. Lewis high on confidence after his podium in Mosport. Row 5, Randy Ruhlman and P.L. Newman. He will enjoy this today, no doubt about that. The 6th row, Joey Scarello, our 3rd rookie, and John Balcom. Back to row 7, Tim Cohen, Michael Brockman, who is teaming with Paul Newman. This weekend, Simon Gregg, Garrett Kletchen, and Pete Rogel rounds out the final 9th row. The cars begin to roll. You're with us live here on Speed Channel from Lime Rock. Stick around, we'll get it going after this.
Lap times have gotten quicker and quicker over the recent years, but you may be surprised to find out that a lot of that speed has come not from horsepower gains, but from shock absorber technology. Scott Pruitt is probably one of the most versatile drivers in the paddock, and Scott, you've driven all different types of cars, but on a track like Lime Rock, how important is that shock package?
Extremely important. You have to think of the spring shock combination. Especially at a track like Lime Rock, you have uphills and downhills and a very rough surface. You have to get that right combination. In practice, we've had a little bit of video. You can actually see my car heaving up and down. You can aggravate it quite significantly by hitting the curbs. Hopefully you stay off the curbs and you get that combination right. In fact, going into the race today, we've completely changed our shock package.
Thanks, Scott. So the next time you hear a driver talk about his smooth run to the checkered flag, you'll be shocked to find out what helped get him there.
Isn't that some incredible video?
Unbelievable, really amazing. And it just shows you what can happen, that you want to keep all those patches on the ground with the maximum weight possible. You don't want up in the air.
And Ryan and I actually earlier in the weekend were in the Rocket Sports camp, and Scott Pruitt failed to tell team owner Paul Gentilozzi about that little incident.
How about hitting a curb? I didn't do it, boss, really.
And speaking of Paul Gentilozzi, this is really his first race meeting as a proper team owner, if you like, because he's not behind the wheel. And there is our Grand Marshal today, Sam Posey. And it is his birthday today, and we're hoping that Sam will join us here in the booth a little later.
Well, I saw pace car lights out.
And here we go. They throw the green. Watch the spray fly. Stu Hainer looking for a quick start. Johnny Miller on the left of your screen. Pruitt to the right in the silver Jaguar. And Hainer takes the inside line, and he pushes for second early.
That a really good move on Stu Hainer's part. I think both lead drivers took a very conservative approach. That's what you want to do. You got to keep in mind, this is a long race, and right now they don't know what the conditions are like. They didn't get a chance to warm up before this race, so it's very much a new, strange track to them. They want to be very careful. Brian Simo, you also see, just trying to maybe find the outside line in the corner, which is usually the good line.
Rain has picked up since we first started the show. Johnny Miller leads from Stu Hainer. Then it's Scott Pruitt from Brian Simo. Then Bobby Sack is up there ahead of Jorge Diaz Jr., Tommy Dreesy, then Mike Lewis. And look how gingerly they're taking it.
Yeah, the spray is enormous. And look at, I think Hainer is going to come up and challenge right away. It looked like he was closing up on the tail of Miller. He's getting wide. Now he's over a concrete patch right there. They're all taking different lines, trying to see where the best traction is.
Look at that. This camera shot shows you just how wet it is. That stationary camera up on top of the bridge. Look at Stu Hainer here. The outside line, the wet line. And he sweeps around the outside of Johnny Miller. Now it's a drag race. Corvette versus Jaguar.
Yeah, and I think Miller's going to let him have it too. You can see Hainer well in advance. He got a terrific run going down the hill there.
I can tell you that Stu was very wound up about last year, and Brian Simo makes an inside move on Scott Pruitt. So Pruitt goes from second back to fourth, and that's Pete Rogan.
Oh boy, and he has thumped hard. Look at that left front wheel. It's over on an angle. It's not just body work.
Peter Rogel.
Good for him. He's getting that thing going. So there shouldn't be a pace car. I don't think he's leaving any parts. Just a replay. Look at the front wheel. Stop dead.
Yeah, bang.
He locked his brakes going in. Now, there's a little bit of a stream. We'll sometimes run across this back. They call it a straight. It's really, well, that's it. That's the way they call it.
Well,
and see,
straight,
right about there is where you go across the stream. If you're under fairly hard braking, it's just enough to lock it up.
Stu Hainer from Johnny Miller. From Brian Simo, then it's Scott Pruitt. I tell you who's doing a very good job at the moment is Paul Newman. He's running in 8th at the moment and handling these wet conditions beautifully. The second Revolution car is there, Bobby Sack. But here comes Simo. He's trying to do a Stu Hainer on Johnny Miller, and he draws level and gets ahead. So Simo up to second.
He will too. He saw Miller trying to get power off the corner, was completely unable to. What Johnny has to do is to change his lines. He needs to find the area, and we saw both times he was passed by somebody going on the outside of the track. For new viewers, essentially what you want to do in the rain is avoid the shiny part of the track. That's where most cars go, and they fill up those little tiny holes in the pavement with rubber. So you want a rough piece of pavement where it will actually drain the water away. That's what they're looking for right now, and that's really what Johnny Miller needs to find.
And Paul Newman there, the 78 Corvette. Mike Lewis is off the track. Simon Gregg went into the pits, and Peter Rogel went into the wall. So it's all happening, but here he is. The Hollywood great. He's a two-time Trans Am winner, and there's Rogel continuing on. I don't think he realizes how much damage is on that front left.
I'm sure he doesn't. I can't believe that he hasn't already come around and had his crew just tell him to pull in.
Now, here's a couple of people on different sides of the fence in Hollywood. Obviously, we know all about Paul Newman. In front of him is Tommy Dreese, who lives and works in Hollywood and makes cardboard standees for the film industry.
Yeah, right ahead of Tommy Dreese, too. Young Jorge Diaz Jr., he's doing a very nice job. This, again, we've talked all year long about the future of Trans Am racing. A couple of the drivers that are in it, Bobby Sack and Jorge Diaz Jr., very good talents. They're really driving with a lot of patience, which that sometimes doesn't go hand in hand with a young driver.
Stu Hainer, Brian Simo, there's less than 2 seconds between those guys. Johnny Miller maintains his third from Scott Pruitt, Bobby Sack, here they come. It's a good, strong start for both Revolution cars. Brian?
Well, you know, you talk about the changing conditions on this racetrack all weekend long, but they're talking about changing conditions now. Gentilozzi walked up to Simo just before the start of the race. He said, it's going to stop raining. It's going to dry. Do you want to hook up the sway bars? They started to, but the officials wouldn't let them do it out on the racetrack. So they think it's going to dry. Another changing condition. Calvin?
Well, I just spoke to the other crew chief down here, Nick Shaw, and he said, yeah, we're gambling on that, the fact that the track is going to stay pretty wet. But for the other boys on the Rocket Sports teams, they all have their bars hooked up, should I say. So different strategy right now. I think that's why we're seeing Brian go to the front and the other guys lagging back a little bit. They're banking on it drying out, and then a more stable platform should work well, Bill.
That's true. I mean, what they're talking about with disconnecting the sway bars, under very bad conditions, under rain, or even if you drive in the snow or on dirt, you really want a car that'll kind of flop around on you, something that'll have a lot of give to the suspension, that'll actually bite. You don't want a very stiff chassis. You can actually think about driving a go-kart. If you drive a go-kart in the rain, that thing just chatters across the pavement.
Look at Paul Newman applying the pressure to Tommy Dreese.
And completely blind, too. Look at the spray.
Pruitt has Bobby Sack all over him. That was Simon Gregg just coming back out of the pits. Jorge Diaz Jr. Here is the Rocket Sports car, the LXG entry. And Newman's Corvette really starting to give Dreese a hard time. Talking about the battle for 7th there. Behind those guys, it's Randy Ruhlman and John Balcom. The rain continues to fall, but will it stop? We'll find out. Welcome back to Lime Rock Park. Round 4 of the Trans Am Series for the Fifth Goodrich Tyres Cup continues, and Stu Hayner continues to pile on the seconds over Brian Simo. You can see Johnny Miller there now starting to apply the pressure. That's the battle for second. Here's your race leader in the Trenton Forging Revolution Motorsports Corvette. Back to second and third, the two Rocket Sports entry. The car usually driven by Paul Gentilozzi. That's how they sit. You can see Simon Gregg off in the grass. His race is done. And it was a fairly troublesome start as well.
Yeah, I'm pleased and impressed right now, too, that Johnny Miller hasn't given up. He's been so quick and so fast in every single session so far, every practice session and qualifying. Just had a wonderful weekend. Sometimes when you go from first down to third that quickly, it just destroys your concentration for a few laps, and apparently it hasn't with Johnny. He actually did get passed fairly easily by Brian Simo, but he's closing up quite quickly, as is Bobby Sack on him.
Paul Newman in the 78 Corvette has just run the fastest lap of the race, a 1:11.75. He has been pushing it. This may very well be his last race ever, but he is going to go out in glory. That's for sure. He's applying pressure to, look at this. This is a replay of him going around Tommy Dreese and Simon Gregg up ahead. Paul Newman is stopping for no one.
Boy, and that is a really big courage pass, too. You're coming downhill. Everything is trying to throw the car off the track. The G-force is pushing to the outside, and he's sticking the race car on the outside. In his favor, that's where the best traction is, at that spot, because not very many people are brave enough to do that.
As we see Miller applying the pressure to Brian Simo. Brian Till, tell us more.
Well, I just talked to Don Breslauer about Paul Newman, and I said, were you glad to see it rain today? He said, absolutely, with a huge smile on his face. Newman knows this racetrack. I think you're seeing him put it to good work right now.
Oh boy, and we almost saw Johnny Miller just throw it away right there. He is really getting after Brian Simo. Came off a corner and forgot about a puddle that builds up right on the inside of that one little, I'll call it an apex on the back straight. But there's always that puddle there. The car just hydroplaned in a heartbeat.
Let's have a look at it.
Here's a replay. Now watch as he approaches this right on the inside, right here. Look at that. Look at the car go sideways. Boy, great job hanging on to that thing.
Calvin, tell us more about Johnny Miller.
Well, I saw him coming down into turn 1 on the last lap. He had a peek underneath Brian Simo. Now he goes to the outside, but under braking, he was really twitching it up down there. Looked like he had a little bit too much rear brake into it, but we see Scott Pruitt, what looks like fadingly, but I think he's just really using his experience. We talk about tire conservation in the dry. Same thing applies in the wet. If this thing goes green, you need to have some good wet tires underneath you, and with the possibility of a yellow, of course, anything can happen out here this afternoon. He wants a good car at the end of this one.
Johnny Miller out braking Simo down into Big Bend, and now moves back up into second. And look at Bobby Sack. This is a very impressive run. He's pushing hard. He's got ahead of Scott Pruitt. Then it's Newman in 6th. Jorge Diaz back in 7th, and we have lost Tommy Dreese. He has spun off the circuit. Brian.
Well, we talk about Bobby Sack, and you talk about a mature young man. I talked to him earlier today, and I asked him what he thought of the rain, since it was raining so hard and looked like it would be that way all day long. And he said, you know, I'm not a guy who really attacks. This rain may be better for me. I'm smooth, I'm precise, I can take my time. And look how it's paying off, Lee.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, he is impressive. And I like the tools that he has to work with. His dad was a pretty good driver himself, and then having Stu Hayner as your teammate, he can go to Stu at any point and say, maybe I'm not comfortable with this particular setup. What should I do with the springs and shocks? And I think Stu is smart enough that he can explain these things to Bobby and teach him for the future.
Well, here comes Sack. Look at him now starting to apply the pressure to Brian Simo. And this is the best run we've seen from this young rookie. This is his first full season in the Trans Am Series. He did 3 races last year and impressed, we must add. And this year he's had 2 top 10s and a 15th. He's had some bad luck, but this is his single best run. And Jorge Diaz Jr., is it all over for him?
Oh boy, now what are they, something windshield wipers, yes.
And he's now released. That's not looking good though. So the young Puerto Rican heads back out after being in a strong top 10 position. He is dropping down the order. Stay with us. Stu Hayner, he's dominating. One of the highlights this weekend is the return of Paul Newman. The Hollywood icon makes a one-off appearance on a track he knows better than any other, a circuit that brought him victory in 1986. And although this is for fun, it brings with it associated pressures.
Well, you find that all baloney that you've been through for the last month or so runs right out of your toes when you get in those cars, and I just relax. I wish I could see 75 again. I wish the number on there was 33.
He'll race with the number 78. The significance, it represents the great man's age. The colour scheme of his car reflects his time with Bob Sharp Racing, the era he enjoyed success.
Those are the great years of racing for me. I mean, to this day, I find it hard to realize that I didn't realize then how lucky I was. And that was a spectacular ride, and I'm very grateful for it.
Our race leader is off. Stu Hayner has spun. And that looks like the outside of Big Ben. Welcome back to Lime Rock Park. This is round 4 of the Trans Am Series for the BF Goodrich Tyres Cup. And this guy was enjoying a very healthy lead, about 7 seconds. And it's all gone wrong. And Paul Newman runs off the circuit as well. Let's have a look at a replay. Let's see what we can find out happened to Stu Hayner.
Well, let's take a look as he comes down the main street. Watch for the front brakes, perhaps locking up over some water, standing. Oh no, he got, what on earth? I haven't seen anybody do that. Maybe he just lost concentration for a moment and perhaps got the outside wheels on that painted white line at the edge of the track, losing traction.
Calvin.
Well, the team just said that he reported he did lock up the front brakes, run a little wide, and that cost him definitely there, but they were up in arms here. They thought he had a smooth run going, but long way to go. Hopefully he can recover, guys.
There is still a long way to go. 66 laps or 75 minutes, whichever comes first. And at this stage, with all this action happening, and we just saw that special feature on Paul Newman, we'd like to welcome to the announce booth racing great and local and birthday boy, Sam Posey. Sam, it's wonderful to see you and wonderful to have you in here. Thoughts on this frantic start?
Well, thanks a lot for inviting me. It's of course spectacular to see Newman having such a great run. He's now up to, despite the fact he went off there at the Big Bend along with Stu Hayner, he did not lose a position, so he's 5th. I can't believe what a great performance he's turning in. I had the honor of waving the green flag at the start, and he almost lost it right then in tight traffic, and I think it probably got his adrenaline going because he's having a terrific drive.
Well, Paul Newman's adrenaline certainly was pumping earlier this weekend. Let's take a look at an item on tape from earlier this weekend, and it was a very close call for Paul Newman, as from memory I think it was Pete Rogel got a little loose and they almost came into contact. We might get back to that later as we watch Paul circulating now, still maintaining 5th, although getting a little wide.
The trouble is the track is so wet right now. Here we are.
This is the item earlier.
Yep.
Watch here. Rogel gets wide, out in the dirt, comes straight across in front of Newman. Newman locked it up, and that was in one of the very first sessions earlier this weekend. So that was a close call to his.
Yeah, but it proves he's still got the reflexes, which I just find amazing. 78 years old, the willpower, the reflexes, and the sense of humor about it, too. I mean, he just knows that he isn't what he could have been if he'd started when he was 20 years old, but it just doesn't bother him.
Let's get you back up to date. Johnny Miller is the new race leader. Brian Simo is in 2nd, and the rookie Bobby Sack is now up into 3rd. Stu Hayner, how costly was it? He went from 1st to 7th, and there is Bobby Sack applying plenty of pressure to Brian Simo. And we are under full course caution. Full course yellow. We will find out why momentarily.
I would suspect just to drag some of the cars out of the way, because there was at least one sitting in a fairly precarious position.
That'll help Stu Hayner no end.
Yeah, considerably.
Just the right time for him.
Well, you've got Simon Gregg's car off to the side there, and I don't know where Rogel's car has ended up. I think that might be back in pit lane.
So, you know, seeing Paul get back in a car now, Sam, when can we expect you to announce your
Let's take a look at the reason. Here it is. They're going to collect Simon Gregg's car. They feel it's in too much of a precarious position. They'll gather that back up, and when we return, we'll go back to green. Stick around. Sam Posey's going to stay with us. Plenty more after this. A rainy day here at Lime Rock Park, and plenty of rain last night in Charlotte as well. And you can stay up to date with everything involving the Winston Cup with Inside Winston Cup, Mondays, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on Speed. Still under caution here at Lime Rock. Welcome back. And it's still Johnny Miller for Rocket Sports, Brian Simo for Rocket Sports, Bobby Sack for Revolution, Scott Pruitt in 4th, Paul Newman. Yes, that's right. The 78-year-old Hollywood icon is running in the top 5 after starting 10th. He had a little bit of a hairy moment down in turn 1, but gathered it back up and is sitting in the top 5. Stu Hainer, who has led for the majority of the time, back in 7th. Calvin?
Down here with Troy Cowgill. Scott seems to be being very patient, ultra. So any concerns with the race car right now, Troy?
Not really. He called in and said he's just being patient. We expected the yellow to come out. Some cars unhooked their sway bars, some cars didn't. So it looks like the rain's stopping, so we'll see what happens here.
Your sway bars are connected, I believe, in a soft position, so if it dries out, you should have some adjustability there, yeah?
Right. And the other cars will come back to us. You charge out front and something happens like happened to Stu. He went off and all that stuff. And Scott said he's just going to be patient and try and gain some points. Try and get our way back up to the front.
All right, mate. Well, the man up front is Johnny Miller. We hear from his team that he's actually struggling to see, so hopefully these drying conditions will ease that somewhat, Lee.
Sam Posey is with us if you've just joined us. Sam, this track is virtually in your backyard. You know this better than anyone. What's this place like in the wet?
It's treacherous, particularly with cars that are this fast, with tires that are this wide. You notice everywhere on the track, even now that the rain is letting up a little bit, there's still places where you could easily aquaplane, and everybody is, I'm sure, having a moment or two per lap. Nobody's having an easy drive. I'm amazed that Pruitt is pushing it a little bit harder. I talked to Johnny Miller right before the start of the race. He has such a relaxed attitude toward this event. It's just incredible, and I think it's paying off for him.
Still under caution, but we are getting closer to green. Stick around, plenty more from Lime Rock Park. You're watching round 4 of the Trans Am Series for the BF Goodrich Tires Cup. Welcome back to Lime Rock and welcome back to racing. Caution now over, and Johnny Miller leads the way from Brian Simo. And again, it's so awkward, isn't it, guys? They're still so tentative, watching the cars twitch as they go through the uphill section.
Yeah, right now I'm actually seeing Scott Pruitt being a little bit more aggressive. You see, he's just right there.
He listened to you, Sam.
On the he did. Good advice.
Well, he has 2 firsts and a second in the series so far this year. So, I mean, he is the man to watch, and I think he'll start to turn it on as it dries. Here comes Paul, of course.
And Brock.
Right behind Brock. But I think that this race is far from over, because as long as the track is this wet, and it's going to stay wet even if the rain itself stops. Look at the puddles right between the 2 Newman cars there. It's just flat treacherous. You get on the brakes right in here where Newman is right now, and the car can get away from you so easily.
And he is right in the hot spot. Michael Brockman, his teammate there, he is a lap down, but these 2 guys aren't. Tommy Dreese and Stu Hainer, here they come to apply the pressure to Paul Newman. And Brockman may play some team games here.
Yeah, right now I think Dreese is playing a little bit of a block for the Corvette. He's trying desperately to get by, and Tommy hit the puddle. Again, one of those puddles down in the apex of the corners. They just form in a couple of dreadful spots.
And the cars are so big that up in a puddle, it really yanks the car. It's a long wheelbase, big car, and you don't just quickly recover. Here we go.
Look at Hainer, look at Stu Hainer. Dives around and up the inside. Nice. That was a good, forceful move. Well executed.
Very nicely done. That was perfect.
Looked and set him up, and now Dreese goes through. And Sam, at this stage, we'd like to say thank you very much. Happy birthday. And
my pleasure.
We have enjoyed being in your part of the world.
Thank you so much. Let's hope it's sunny the next time you're here.
I hope so, Sam.
Okay.
There he is, folks, Sam Posey. And next in our booth, it's a revolving door of guests today. We will have Rocket Sports team owner and multiple Trans Am champion Paul Gentilozzi joining us moments away. We watch his drivers on track and his car on track. And look at this, young Bobby Sack is very impressive. Really coming in on Brian Simo now, putting the pressure on. It's Miller, Simo, and the rookie Bobby Sack.
Well, our next guest, Paul Gentilozzi, I can remember back at Cleveland last year having a terrific battle with Bobby Sack, and I thought, who is this kid? Where did he come from that he was doing such a good job?
Well, but you know, Bobby is really a brave young man, and he's not a rookie. He learned how to be fast in the Spec Racing Series, and he's been around the racetrack for a long, long time with his dad. In fact, I think that Bobby just set the new fast lap. That means the kid's got what it takes.
He's shown a lot of patience, I think, in every event I've seen so far, and had a little bit of mechanical bad luck, but geez, he looks good on these tracks.
Top 3. Look at Simo get sideways.
Yeah, squeezing power. It's nice to get somebody like Brian back in your car, because he's always been so good.
Well, you know, as it twitches on it, and he might go off track, I get a little pain in my back.
You get a pain in the wallet. Isn't that where it is?
Well, Brian's caused me a few of those over the years, that's for sure.
For those of you who can't see Paul Gentilozzi in the announce booth here, he's moving his hands like he's trying to correct that oversteer. Sack chasing, and he's doing a wonderful job. Let's see what Scott Pruitt has for him, though, because he's about 3 seconds behind the rookie. Then Paul Newman maintains 5th. Hayner has picked up another position, as we saw. Then Dreesy Ruhlman and Joey Scarello and Jorge Diaz Jr. That's the top 10 as they sit right now. But Paul, what the ultimate question, the big question, what's it like to be sitting here and not being out there? And this, although you've been handling the Champ Car side of things as a team owner, this is near and dear to your heart. What's it like not to be in there?
You know, it is almost not real. Bobby's moving up on, looks like Mike.
I think it's Hayner.
Stu on Hayner.
Oh, Hayner moving up on Newman.
And decided not to go by on the inside. So Paul got in deep enough that he really didn't give him an opportunity to get by.
Well, I know you guys have talked so far on the broadcast about how good Paul is, but I can tell you firsthand from having tested with him and raced with him, he is 78 in age, but he's 28 in his mind. And he absolutely believes in what he's doing, and it's amazing.
Calvin?
Quick update on the Revolution Motorsports, guys. Bobby Sack, as Paul said, just set fastest lap. He is scorching his way and making a great race out here this afternoon. And his teammate Stu Hayner, there are no ill effects to that race car after the early off, so he should be able to make his way to the front again. So both cars running strong.
Here is the battle for second. We've been talking about it. Simo and Sack, the 2000 Trans Am Series champion, back. Is it just a one-off, Paul, or will we see him again?
At this point, we're not sure. We've got several guys lined up to do select races in my car. When I got involved with the series, I promised everybody I wouldn't do a full season, and I'm not. I'm going to do the things that are fun, but more important than that, I'm going to put guys in Trans Am cars who bring notoriety and talent to our series.
Now Dreesy gets Paul Newman, and Newman got tangled up a little bit on the wrong side of the track there, and in that puddle, and Tommy Dreesy was there to pounce. So they've been scrapping for quite a while, and Dreesy is trying to go with Stu Hayner.
Well, you know, guys, it's interesting to sit here and watch, and the only analogy I can really make is somebody got rid of Halle Berry, I can get rid of driving.
Yeah, good point. That's an analogy I can understand.
3 seconds separating the top 3, and Bobby Sack looks for an inside run. Can't get it that time. Paul, for those of you who have just joined us here on Speed Channel, we've got 3 times Trans Am champion Paul Gentilozzi with us. Paul, have you been impressed with the way Brian Simo's just plugged himself into that car? He hasn't driven in 2 years.
He hasn't driven since Daytona 24, almost 2 years ago. But Brian's a quick learner, a quick adapter, and every lap he's going to get better and better. At this point, he knows he has a car for the end of the race. He's just trying to exist here. He's got a good dry car. He's trying to save position.
I'd love to see him get back and run a full season of competition, because he's always somebody that I enjoyed very much watching and being around. He's just a perfect gentleman and is blessed with a great deal of talent.
Well, you know, for 5 years, Brian and I raced against each other and had dinner every night.
Yeah. And didn't you have battles?
We had some serious battles.
Oh,
Here
there's Dad.
Don Sack there. He, like you today, steps from driving. He's driven for some 17, 18 years and not racing this year. Has given his son that opportunity. And this is the highest we have seen Bobby Sack run. And that's why Don looked a little nervous. We'll be back.
A little proud.
Lime Rock Park Grand Prix continues, round 4 of the Trans Am Series for 2003, and Johnny Miller now enjoys a 2.5 second lead over Brian Simo, who is not giving in. He is handling this pressure from Bobby Sack beautifully, and they are in a race of their own. There is a big margin back to Scott Pruitt, Stu Hayner, Tommy Dreesy. They still continue their charge. Now look at this. Ooh.
Wow. Right down to it. There's backwards. That's up over the hill, right? We saw Scott Pruitt in that tape getting his car so light. And that's exactly what can happen. If you pick up the throttle just a fraction too early, it'll snap out sideways.
And Randy was engaged in quite a fight for that 8th spot with Jorge Diaz Jr.
You know, Jorge's one of the bright young stars in Trans Am. He's in the Rookie of the Year contest. Oh, Randy, save it, save it. And I think we're going to see Jorge win a race before this whole thing is over.
How easy is it to do that there at that section? Because it's very steep. TV doesn't do it justice.
It's a lack of confidence. First, it looks like you're driving in a two-car garage at about 120 and making a right turn in the middle of the garage.
My wife does that once in a while, Paul.
Well, you're facing a wall, you turn, and then the car goes totally up a hill like a roller coaster ride. On a good day, you can get all four wheels in the air.
And you don't want to think about a bad day.
We all had some friends in GTP who decided they were going to do some roof ride.
Oh boy, yeah.
Tommy Dreese has got past Paul Newman. We saw that earlier, and he is shadowing Tommy Dreese. He's less than a second behind. That's the battle for fifth. And Hayner is trying desperately to catch up to this lead bunch after leading early on and just running on down at Big Bend, down at turn one, and threw it away. There's first, second, third. That illustrates the point beautifully.
You know, it's interesting to watch, too, the two different schools of thought going down to the turn one. That you see Brian Simo going out wide, a very classic entry into the corner, and yet Bobby Sack in the white Corvette is going straight down the track, taking advantage of maximum braking.
Well, you know, once you get your nose in, of course, there's been a lot of wrecks in turn one. Once you get your nose in, the guy on the outside doesn't have many choices. And I think Bobby's just hoping as the track drives, he can get enough braking friction to get his nose inside Brian.
And I think he will. I suspect he will.
Well, I don't know that Brian will give up, though. Having been in Brian's mirror for a lot of laps, he probably has turned it down right now, so he can't see anything.
Calvin, what do you have for us?
Well, a couple of quick updates. We spoke to the leader's crew chief, and Bobby Houghton said that the visibility has certainly gotten better. Not so much because the rain has subsided a little bit, but it's got a little bit warmer down here. But we're now seeing a few more sprinkles of rain. But that man, Bobby Sack, he is just eating Simo up there under braking down into turn one. Very impressive indeed. Maybe a bit more grip on the inside line.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Before the start of the race, we took a look at Johnny Miller as he's sitting in the car, and his nose, his nostrils were actually above the padding on the bottom of his helmet. And by comparison, Paul Newman had his nose taped over so that all of his hot breath would go down. It wouldn't interfere with fogging up his visor. Oh, there's
Hayner on Pruitt. Tries for it, couldn't quite get it. So Scott is now having to defend, and Tommy Dreese, Pruitt's teammate, isn't too far away either. Brian Till.
Well, Calvin was just talking about visibility. It's gotten to the point that as it starts to dry up, it is very humid in these cars. I've actually seen a couple of guys, Michael Lewis included, driving down the front straightaway, and some of them actually have squeegees in their car. They're cleaning the windshield with squeegees. The defrosters do not work well in this car. I don't know about you guys. I don't want to drive around at 120 miles an hour in the rain with a squeegee in my hand.
Some of our cameramen could do with those squeegees as well. Paul Gentilozzi, expand on that. How difficult is that in these cars?
Well, the smart teams really do the basic thing, and they send their windshields off to get a special coating on the inside. Cost about $500, and it guarantees a no-fog finish. There isn't any more of that soap or Rain-X or any of those kinds of conditions. We use a special windshield just for these kinds of days to give our guys vision.
Is that something that you save? Do you take off if it's not raining?
Yes,
the expense?
We only use it in rain conditions, and it's good for 3 or 4 applications before then it deteriorates, and then we have to go out and build a new one.
Hayner lost a little ground on that last lap to Scott Pruitt, whether he lost it or Pruitt responded. Speaking of lap times, though, Jorge Diaz Jr. has put in the second, what looks to be the second fastest of this maybe top 4 in this race. He is flying, the young Puerto Rican, and here he comes now on Paul Newman in the Jaguar. Brand new Huffaker engine in that car for this weekend. He's talking with his dad, who incidentally is the promoter of the final round of this year's championship down in Puerto Rico in San Juan at the airport there. And he said, yeah, the old one was just getting a little tired. We freshened it up, and things are looking good.
Yeah, I chatted with his dad earlier on today, and they're such nice people. He was saying how he was kind of reluctant about his son doing this because he didn't want to feel that Jorge Jr. was doing it because his dad wanted him to.
Yeah.
He's really got a good attitude. Can you imagine the pressure that they're going to be under when they go to this final race in Puerto Rico? He's performing in front of all his friends and family.
I drove last December with Jorge at a race in Puerto Rico, in a 3-hour race, and that was really the point where I was lobbying hard to get them to come to do the whole season. Yeah. When we get to the last race, if he's not up to speed on how good Trans Am is, he won't compete.
Yeah. And he is competing very well this year. Mike Lewis in the crank, pushing hard, but a little further down the order than where he was last week. Stick around. Watching the 4th round of the Trans Am Series for the BF Goodrich Tires Cup, and what has been a very busy 7-day period. nice sunny day, the high speed and open spaces of Mossport last weekend. It's the tight confines and the wet, slippery conditions here at Lime Rock in Connecticut this weekend. And the battle for second continues. You have missed nothing since we're away. And Brian Simo is not relenting. He is handling this pressure. He's accepting every bit of it. And Bobby Sack again just tries to put his nose on the inside there. This is good close racing, guys.
Yeah, you and I both heard the wheel spin for Brian coming over the crest of that hill right there. Brian is trying really hard right now. He's working very, very tough.
You know, Bobby doesn't seem to be spinning the tires at all. Brian's on the rev limiter in a couple of those low grip spots. Bobby's attempt to go inside to scare Brian isn't going to work.
See another dive down the inside right here.
He may have him this time. No!
Oh,
he hit him. Stay there, Brian.
Now they regather, they gather up and settle down, and Bobby Sack does. Oh, now he collects him again.
But you know what? That was accidental because he hit that little puddle on the inside lead. Yeah, that would. Oh, and that one wasn't.
Whoa! Around goes Brian Simo.
Man. I think that'll send you to the back. I don't know.
And Don Sack, whether he has a vision monitor down in that pit box, he may or may not have seen that. His son was involved in some fairly hairy moments. Let's have a look at that.
Brian won't be happy about that.
God. Well, first of all, coming down into turn one, once again, Bobby Sack does this patented by now, straight into the corner, and right there, very, very tiny impact, not a problem. You can see Brian Simo handle that easily. And then as he goes around, he's going to dive into this puddle right about here. That loses a lot of grip. Then he slides over, accidentally tags him there. But the next tag, this isn't accidental.
There was one there.
That one isn't accidental. And I don't think this one is either.
No, I'm afraid that having done that a couple times in my life and having paid a few fines and seen a few flags over it, he's motivated Brian. I hope there's a yellow soon so Brian can get back up in position.
What was that? I mean, did young Bobby just lose his patience there a little? Or?
I think so. That's an emotional punt. You hate to do that, and I don't know whether Brian checked up. It's hard to judge on TV. I don't think so, but
just on that short shoot, it looked like he may have checked up a bit.
Yeah, the first one when they got to the corner, you know, at that point Bobby may have had momentum and not been able to stop. So it could have been something he couldn't have prevented. We hope.
We're talking about this young man here, one of our top rookies. He runs second in the rookie points chase at the moment, and he runs second in the race. He's some 11.5 seconds behind Johnny Miller. Let's put in the point that Johnny Lightning has only ever had one Trans Am Series victory, and that was back in 2000. So Johnny Miller is heading towards his second career victory today. I can tell you that car number 10, Bobby Sack, has received the black flag.
Closed black means it's a warning by the chief steward for behavior.
And if the closed black has a 44 Magnum inside it, you know that you've really done something wrong. I'm glad they're doing this. I think it'd be wrong to destroy the fun entertainment value of the race right now, but I disagree totally with NASCAR where they allow this bumping to get people by. I think if you don't have the ability to get by somebody without hitting them, without actually causing to get loose, then you shouldn't be by them. And I've never agreed with NASCAR on that.
Well, I think there's a big difference in loosening a guy up and then passing him.
Yes.
And then touching him to the point where you've turned him around.
Yeah.
These conditions are extreme.
Calvin.
We're down here with Don Sack, and we understand Bobby's been given a warning flag. I mean, you believe Brian was driving a little defensively. You have a fast race car this afternoon.
Yeah, we're doing good. Bobby's doing good. He's set fast lap, I think, so far. And Brian was holding him up. He called in, said Brian sort of slowed down in the middle of the straightaway one time. And then when Bobby was going into the corner, Brian turned in a little bit, and they touched and went on. He's driving real smooth. We're real proud of him.
Pretty fair call, though, to give him a warning flag rather than a stop and go right now, you think?
Yeah, just let him know, they watch him. We let him know he's driving a good race.
He goes by, team looks on. Great performance by Bobby Sack this afternoon.
Yeah, heading for a career best result, and that will certainly take the fight right back to Jorge Diaz Jr. in the chase for the rookie title. Johnny Miller continues to lead, and he has a very healthy margin. This is what we were talking about, the collision, between Bobby Sack and Brian Simo. This was the fight for second. Plenty of action here at Lime Rock, and Scott Pruitt is on the charge as well. His race is not over by a long shot. We'll be back. Welcome back Johnny Miller is mauling them here at Lime Rock in the Eaton Cutler Hammer Rocket Sports Jaguar. It is Johnny's day. In fact, it's been Johnny's weekend. He was fast in practice, fast in qualifying. This seems to be his weekend. Welcome back to Lime Rock. Lee Diffie with Bill Adam. We've got our special guest here in the booth, Paul Gentilozzi, and down in the pits, Calvin Fish and Brian Till. It's been a testing day, but as you can see, it's starting to dry up.
It is. It's getting a lot better now, and we see the lap times are continually dropping. Now what may come into play is what we were talking about earlier. Did you set the car up for a full wet race? Did you set it up maybe hoping and praying that it would dry out at the end? And the handling will change substantially, won't it, Paul?
Well, you got to remember there's 225 or so pounds of fuel in the back of these cars. Makes great straight line traction, but it takes weight off the front. And early, when there's not much grip, you really pray to have your front tires turn when you want them to.
Oh, no.
Paul, not to put you on the spot, but I'm just looking down our list of winners here, and this is one of the circuits, one of the few circuits that you have never won at.
It's at the top of the list. Thanks for reminding me of that. Lime Rock has been my widowmaker really all of my road racing career. I've led a lot of laps here, been in position to lead, and had things go wrong. That really played a part in my decision to start my semi-retirement this weekend and put Brian in.
Isn't it amazing how some tracks are like that? We saw last week at Mosport that our pal Scott has never even lost a race there.
Scotty's got an incredible record, but he might get beat today. Johnny is, at least at this point, 10 or 12 seconds ahead of Bobby Sack. Unless we have a yellow, I don't know that he can catch him unless Johnny makes a mistake.
Now, it continues to impress me that right now, Johnny Miller still is running 0.3 of a second faster than Scott Pruitt, the second quickest car. So Miller is doing just a terrific job. And, you know, credit to the crew, too. I'm watching the back suspension of the car. When he comes down the hill under all that compression, it really looks like it is very nicely set up. So the whole team deserves credit.
Well, this is the third year that Bobby Houghton and Johnny Miller have been together. They've learned to communicate. They've learned everything we at Rocket Sports had the opportunity to teach them. And it has shown in the last few races. Johnny's now ready to stand on his own and compete for a championship.
Yeah, we're just coming up, just for the viewers, just as he goes down the hill here, watch the rear suspension of the car, and it almost looks soft. It's absorbing the bumps beautifully.
But one of the advantages of a multi-car team is that we had 4 opportunities when we got here. We came with 4 different setups. Yeah. Johnny was fast from the get-go, and after qualifying, everybody went to his setup.
I guess the advantage, too, is that you all get along on that, too, because if you get one guy who's jealous of the other ones, he'll say, try this setup. It's the killer setup.
Well, we never allow that.
Calvin?
Well, one thought I have, that Long Beach race, Paul, is where Johnny Miller got the second place finish there. And now you Rocket Sports guys are all together, and Johnny finished ahead of you and Scott Pruitt. I think that did a lot for his confidence there, and really he made a statement that day, and he firmly believes that he can go out and compete with Scott Pruitt. Certainly driven in your shadow for a long time, and bringing Scott in was probably a little something he didn't want to see coming into this racing season, but he's performed very well.
Well, I think it was a better thing, really, because now he's not racing the owner of the team. He's just racing another driver in the Jag. He's got everything in this deal is equal. Johnny's got the talent to beat him. He's going to beat him.
Well, we're being told that Jorge Diaz Jr. has just crashed. There he is there. Well, and let's have a look at the replay. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be too much damage on the car. Let's have a look what happened.
Oh, boy, this going right straight off. No grip. Ooh.
Oh, it's a little tire rub deal there.
Man, how close can you come?
And we have had a big weekend of racing here at Lime Rock Park with the Speed World Challenge events, and that has been a very, very sticky point.
Yeah, that's right. We've seen a couple of other cars go off there earlier today, and one of the values at Tire Walls, that was about as perfect a tire wall hit as I think I've ever seen. It probably didn't even scuff the paint.
Well, you know, I know Jorge's got good car control. I've ridden with him in the streets of San Juan in his Jaguar XKR. Now, he doesn't rub quite that much, but the kid can drive.
Miller continues to lead from Bobby Sack, the rookie, and Scott Pruitt, the former Champ Car star and 2 times Trans Am Series champion, is on the way up. Welcome back to Lime Rock. You join us under a full course caution. The safety car is out on the track, and this is the reason why. Can you believe it? Scott Pruitt, as we went to the break, we said he is on a charge, he's on the way up. And he is going nowhere now. Stuck, bogged on the outside of the left-hander. And here's what happened.
just simply got too far out. In that area of the track, there is no grip at this point, and now it's a case of he's a passenger. You can't even control the car. The only thing he tries to do is keep his foot on the gas. You see the rear tire spinning. He knows he's going to get in real slippery ground, but too late.
Any other day, you know, it would be dry there. You drive right through. He got a little wide going around Garrett Klajian, and now he's watching the championship drive by him.
And Calvin, that was that's a painful sight for his championship points.
Oh, points is big with Johnny Miller out front. He was running second to Scott coming in here. Troy Cadwell, I believe, is talking to Scott right now on the radio. We'll try and get a word with him.
How's the car right now?
Troy, quick chat with you, mate. What did Scott say about the incident out there?
He got offline trying to pass somebody. He said it was his fault, just trying to get past lap traffic here. Car's fine. He's just stuck in the mud. He just needs to get towed out.
Okay, losing valuable time here, track position and laps, of course. So this is a big pounding on that championship points lead, Lee.
Well, you continue with the losing, and he could lose, well, if things remain as is, the championship lead with Johnny Miller, after being on pole, getting those bonus point, and let's have another look at it. Goes around the outside of Garrett Klajian and tries to bring it left, bring it back, come back for me, come back for me. Watch the amount of water he gets in here. And from that point on, it was all over.
Just stalled right down.
That big spoiler on the front of the Jag was the worst thing he had right there.
Paul Gentilozzi, thank you. As one of your drivers, your lead driver tries to get some kind of assistance. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And best of luck this year. You've got a lot on your plate with the Champ Car team and this. And will we see you back in the car, incidentally?
Maybe one or two. Not much. Okay. We got a good surprise coming for Sears Point. A lot of great things coming for Trans Am yet in 2003. And in the middle of June, we got some big announcements.
Thanks again, and all the best.
Thank you, Paul.
There you have it, folks. Paul Gentilozzi, Rocket Sports team principal, and a very busy man in 2003. And his driver, Johnny Miller, is set for victory. This is a timed race.
You know, that just showed us how deeply that car was mired in there. We saw the tow truck as he was trying to pull him out. It actually snapped the cable it was towing.
Yeah. As the field bunch up. Where is Bobby Sack? There's 1, 2, 3. He's probably about 4 or 5 cars in between. Pruitt is able to get going again. There is Bobby Sack, and he's got a number of cars between he and race leader. Look who's immediately behind him. Brian Simo is in there. Tommy Dreese is there.
This is the one thing that Johnny Miller did not want. He had a very nice 11, almost 12-second lead, and now it's going to be down to a 12-foot lead. So he has to start his work all over again.
And we could have a close finish here in the rookie race, because look who is right there, just 3 cars behind Bobby Sack is the rookie points leader, Jorge Diaz Jr. Enjoyed his highest grid position of the year. A good solid qualifying for Bobby Sack as well. And this is going to be the race to the flag.
Interesting, too, that Jorge Diaz Jr. is driving a Huffaker car. We again want to point that out. It's not one of the Rocket Sports stable cars. This is it's a Huffaker chassis and a Huffaker motor. So there's a little bit of bragging rights going on there, too. And they just like the idea of going with somebody different. They've had very good success. They said they've had a couple of championships running the Huffaker cars.
1 to go. We will go green next time by. And Paul Newman exits pit lane. What a day he's had.
Terrific.
Calvin?
Scott Pruitt just in and out. Quick stop and go there. Paul Newman did the same thing from the other end of pit lane. We'll try and give you an update on that, Lee.
Thanks. As we continue, it has been wonderful to see Paul Newman back. 2 times a Trans Am race winner. One of them here back in 1986. And his car number reflecting his age. And
amazing too. You look at him in that interview and think that he can't be that old.
Yeah.
He looks younger than Calvin.
Well, updating us on Paul Newman. Brian, what do you have?
Well, it was, like Calvin said, somewhat similar to what Pruitt's problems were. There have been so many cars that have been off the track and so much debris dragged back on. It had a radiator screen full of wet grass, and it clogged it. The car was overheating. They had to come in. I know that's disappointing for him and running as well as he was, but hopefully he hasn't lost that much. And you know, to come in, it just shows his professionalism. Even though he doesn't do this much, came in, calm, cool, and collected, took care of the problem, right back on the track. He's good, guys.
He is indeed. Well, I think this is going to be an interesting restart right here, Lee.
Bobby Sack is in the position with the most pressure currently. I think he wants to worry more about the car directly behind him than worrying about the car in front, because Brian Simo is ready to pounce. And similarly, Diaz Jr. does the same.
Here we go, back to racing, and Bobby Sack didn't waste any time at all. Let's go for it. Johnny Miller, is he on his way to his second career victory? We will find out. Sack is right there, Simo's there. There is Jorge Diaz Jr.
And
Tommy
he got by
Dreese,
him.
yeah, nice work.
Very good move by Diaz Jr. He got by Tommy Dreese right off the start. We talked earlier that he seems to finish very, very strong. And Paul Gentiluzzi was saying that he drives very much within himself for most of the race, and in the final few laps, that's when he puts the effort forth and really goes for it. And that's what he's doing right now.
Coming into this round, only 3 drivers in this entire field have finished in the top 10 in every race. Scott Pruitt, the points leader, Johnny Miller, the second in points, and Jorge Diaz Jr. The kid has been consistent. What has he got? What's Bobby Sack got? And here's Brian Simo, the former champion. In his one-off return here at Lime Rock Park, it's been a very eventful day, but a successful day.
And you see that there's a good show of discipline right now also by Diaz Jr. that following Brian Simo, you're almost tempted to follow his line. You think, well, my gosh, this guy is a past Trans Am champion. I should be putting my car where he is.
Yeah.
He resisted that temptation. He is still doing his own line, so heads up driving. There he is right down the inside there, the blue car.
Further back, Hayner's working on Dreese as well. Brian Till.
Don't forget that at Mosport, Diaz Jr. saw that Bobby Sack had fallen out, and he gave up a little bit. He backed up a little bit. They said, we're running for Rookie of the Year championship. We don't need to press any harder if our main competition is out. So it's a very calculated effort that they have going here. Jorge Diaz Sr. said before that restart, I think we can get Tommy. I said, what about Brian Simo? He just chuckled and said, he's got a little more experience.
Yeah. Well, there's exactly 1 second between those guys on the track. Well, look at that. Jorge Diaz is as close as he has been. This will be a thrilling race to the finish. It's Jaguar, Corvette, Jaguar, Jaguar, and Dreese add to it another Jag. So a very successful day for that mark.
And just to bring the viewers back up to date, the lead car, the Johnny Miller number 64 Jaguar, just ran off a 108.5. He is the quickest car once again. So the nice thing that Johnny obviously is able to get right back into the seat, to get back into the flow very, very quickly. Bobby Sack in second place is at 8.8, so 0.3 slower. And then Brian Simo is a 9.4. So that the lead 2 cars, they're all drawing away a little bit right now. But again, very impressive performance today for Johnny Miller.
Stu Hayner, Lime Rock has dealt him another harsh blow. He's gone down a cylinder to 7, but he's still hanging in there.
Yeah, and you know what? There's points when it may help a little bit, but not a great deal, because you instinctively, at this point in the race, you're used to how much throttle you can give. Your foot goes down almost with a mind of its own to a certain percentage, and you feed power in smoothly. Well, now suddenly you're taking away 1/8 of that horsepower, so as your foot is going down thinking of what your car will do, well, it doesn't respond, so you have to drive with false bravado.
Just to update you, Scott Pruitt is in 13th position after running as high as 3rd and going off the track, getting bogged, needing to be towed out, and is now laps down and in 13th position. But still, championship points available. And you're watching a young man, a rookie, Bobby Sack, driving for his father's team, Revolution Motorsports, a relatively new team, and he is having the drive of his career. But Miller is still the man. You're watching the closing stages of round 4 of the Trans Am Series for the BF Goodrich Tires Cup 2003, and we are working to a timed race. It was 66 laps scheduled, or 75 minutes, whichever came first. It will be the 75 minutes. We're inside 10 minutes from the checkered flag, and Tommy Dreese is not giving up. He is chasing and hunting down Jorge Diaz Jr. 2 Jaguar cars, and Hollywood Tommy has done a pretty good job today. Was forceful early on, dropped back, recovered, fought his way back up. Now he sits in 5th and is applying plenty of pressure to to Diaz Jr.
Yeah, you know what? Even though we're watching different cars here, the blue Jaguar leading is, again, that's the Huffaker car. The white one is the Rocket Sport. So they're different chassis, different engine builders. But the one thing that I've really noticed in the last couple laps is that Diaz's car is really starting to get loose going through the corner. Look at that right there.
Yeah.
He's squiggling down the straight. And I'm not convinced this is a case of he went with a full wet setup and now the track is drying up. I think he's just simply running out of tires. It doesn't look like he's got the amount of grip that Tommy Dreese's white Jaguar has.
Up front, Johnny Miller still enjoys almost a 3-second gap on Bobby Sack and Brian Simo a few seconds back in third. Then it's these two guys. Stu Hayner maintaining sixth ahead of Paul Newman, Michael Lewis sitting in eighth. And our race leader, the Eaton Cutler Hammer Rocket Sports Jag, he has been the man all weekend.
Just flawless performance. He is looking so smooth.
And he knows if he can hang on there for another 7 or 8 minutes, it's his.
Trying to get that horsepower down. You see this car just wiggling down the straight. After a race like this, you get out of the car and you are just physically whipped because you've been clenching that steering wheel with a 1,000-pound death grip, trying to feel every little movement of the car.
And it was a very valid point that Calvin brought up earlier in this telecast that, remember when we were there in California at Long Beach and Boris said, played a very smart game, got by on Scott Pruitt. We said, well, that was kind of, we could see that perhaps coming. It was a great move. And then Johnny Miller just took us by surprise when he was there and he put a move and the move stuck on Scott Pruitt and picked up second. So
yes,
it's been a very positive year for Johnny Miller.
And I think maybe one of the moves of the race so far might be Diaz Jr.'s pass of Tommy Dreese right at the restart. Boy, oh boy.
Hang on to it, Johnny. You're almost there.
Yeah, you know, I think if Diaz hadn't got by Dreese off that restart, he may not have the car to get by him at this point.
Well, let's have a look at a replay of that. That was very ugly. That almost had some bad consequences.
Yeah, Johnny tried to do a tighter line to go underneath this car and as well at the same time get under throttle just a little bit. Now, see, a lot tighter than normal on the gas, but look at how quickly the front wheel
recovered.
Yeah, I mean, he is really driving confidently right now.
And that was Randy Ruhlman in the De Haag Motorsports car. Cal, what do you have for us?
We're down here with Bobby Houghton. Bobby, we talked a lot about that performance that Johnny had at Long Beach. Have you seen his confidence grow since that race the last few weekends?
Oh, absolutely. Johnny's confidence here this weekend's been unsurpassable. I mean, we showed that right out of the box, so.
Certainly been strong all weekend long. I know you've been working hard with the setup. It really seems to be coming into its zone right now. You're strong every session.
Yep. We're getting better every weekend.
All right, big smile here. They got their fingers crossed, boys.
Yeah, they should smile too. It's great. Meanwhile, we've got a tremendous battle going on for second. Sack and Simo. That battle is far from over. We saw those guys tangle not once, twice, 3, but 4 times in a succession of corners. And now look at this. Brian Simo is not done with yet. The co-creator of the hugely successful No Fear brand of clothing. And he is a very accomplished race car driver as well. And he wants to show this rookie a thing or two, but you cannot take anything away from Bobby Sack.
No,
what a performance in that Corvette.
Just a great job. He may have been blocked on that previous lap too, because looking at the lap times the previous lap, Brian Simo was, and he get loose there under braking. Look at Simo, he's going off.
They have both been caught out.
Oh, man.
But Simo, the worst of the two. Brian, just as we were saying you weren't done with, perhaps that is it. Maybe he can get out. That's going to hand third place to Tommy Dreese, his teammate for this weekend.
I wonder if there's something on that front straight, because look, both cars really had very little trouble. Simo, very wide. Simo, he missed his turning point.
We are just minutes from the end of this, and that is heartbreaking stuff for Brian Simo. He had a successful return up until that point. Dreese has got by Diaz and now sits on the podium, and we are under full course caution. And boy, this is going to set it up for the end, Bill.
And Brian's coming out.
Get ready and hang on tight. It will be a wild finish. Stick around. This will be an amazing sprint to the finish. Welcome back to Lime Rock Park. The Lime Rock Park Grand Prix is in its closing stages. And Johnny Miller is anxiously holding on. We are still under caution, and this is the reason why. On your left, Bobby Sack, the rookie, gets out of shape, but not quite as much as this.
I think that was just enough to distract him just a tiny little bit, and Brian Simo was unable to turn in, was on the slippery part of the surface, went straight off into the tar wall. What looks like minimal damage. The hood is currently up a little tiny bit, but I think the car is fine.
We're getting the word from Trans Am Series officials. There's Paul Gentilozzi, and he has had 183 consecutive Trans Am Series starts. Today, that amazing run finishes. And if you've just joined us, we had Paul in the booth with us here for quite some time. It was great to have him in here and hear his thoughts and what he had to say about the series and his drivers. And what a day it is today. I mean, you've got guys like former Champ Car star Scott Pruitt in the field, the co-creator of No Fear Driving, and one of Hollywood's greatest, Paul Newman, who sits in 6th and on the lead lap.
Amazing. 78 years old, and he is just, when he finishes this race, he's going to be 28.
Wow.
Just full of life for racing.
Look at this. We're going to get the green this time by. Will we get the green and the white? We'll find out. We are very, very close to the finish of this one. They put the foot to the floor. Let's get to it. Miller, look at Diaz Jr. and Bobby Sack. The rookie battle is on.
They're going to go up the inside, and this is the last one. You only get one shot on this lap. Diaz Jr. hanging on. You see Dreesy directly behind. Then Stu Hainer. Even with that 7-cylinder Corvette, Stu Hainer in 5th place right now. Dreesy gets a little wide coming off the corner.
Johnny Miller, Bobby Sack, Jorge Diaz Jr. This is thrilling stuff for the two rookies to be on the podium. This is great for the future of Trans Am Series racing. Dreesy is 4th, Hainer 5th, Newman 6th, and Simo after that crash back in 6th. Dreesy runs a little wide there by the looks of it.
Boy, Johnny Miller, look once again. This is impressive. The pressure underneath this sort of an attack right now, and Johnny Miller is driving totally cool. The car still is not sliding around.
Well, they're on their way home. Johnny Miller has only one career victory on his resume.
Yeah, and I bet you Brian Simo would love to get by Paul Newman, just one more corner.
It is about to be 2 victories for Johnny Miller. San Diego 2000 was the last time. Now let's make it Lime Rock Park 2003. Johnny Lightning has done it as the rain begins to fall again. And that is Jaguar's first ever win in Trans Am Series racing at Lime Rock Park. What a milestone. We said at the top of the show it'd be an historic day.
Outstanding job.
And well done to Johnny Miller and the 2 rookies, Bobby Sack, Jorge Diaz Jr. They will stand on the podium as well. Tremendous effort. It had a little bit of everything today, but one of the stalwarts of the series enjoys success, and we could be seeing what could possibly be Johnny Miller's best ever year of racing.
I definitely think this is Johnny's finest race that I've ever seen him do. He sustained speed and concentration from lap 1 at this track. I mean, every single session, Johnny just drove well, and I think, as his crew pointed out, a lot of it is his confidence. He is just getting better and more comfortable in the car, and he feels that he is right up there. He is as good as anybody out there.
And Paul Newman, who finished in the top 5 after starting 10th, this could possibly be it. He may have been a little hot under the collar about something on the cool-down lap. Watch this. To the outside there. Ooh,
oh,
I think Jorge Diaz Jr. did not know he was there. It wasn't a case of Paul being aggravated. No. That was Diaz not looking in his mirrors.
I'll bet you're right.
But a great day for a wonderful gentleman. He finishes top 5, and another good guy, Johnny Miller. We'll see him celebrate, and we'll hear from him after this. Welcome back to Lime Rock Park as we wrap things up here from what has been a very wet, soggy and eventful round of the Trans Am Series for the BF Goodrich Tires Cup. Let's have a look at final results before we hear from our guys who enjoy and deserve the celebrating. Johnny Miller, his 2nd career victory, and Jaguar's first ever here at Lime Rock Park. The 2 rookies on the podium. I feel so pleased for those guys. And Stu Hainer in the end. Consistency is what counts. Paul Newman finishing 5th in his last Trans Am race. Dreesy faulted at the end there. and will lose some championship points for that. But it's time to celebrate and hear from Johnny Lightning. He's with Calvin.
Well, domination is the only word to use this weekend. Johnny Miller's second career win. This one was unbelievable. Talk about the pressure out there.
Oh, man. I had 3 or 4 shots, you know. Gosh, right at the beginning, you know, I talked about if I could see, and I took the green flag and the window just went blank. And so we drove around blind for about 5 laps. The windshield started to clear off, and I was able to get moving again. And boy, that was a blast. That was a blast, but it did seem like a long race.
Great performance by Johnny Miller. Domination all weekend comes on top, and good in the points, boys.
Yeah, and speaking of points, let's take a look at them now. After 4 rounds, that man there is sitting pretty and very, very strong. Just to update you, Scott Pruitt did come in 12th, and that's why he is only just 1 point behind now. He loses the championship lead, but it's nothing to get excited about. He's still right there. But something that is worth getting excited about, the rookie is in 3rd, Jorge Diaz Jr. And that's all about consistency, and he has had 4 top 10 results. But now, speaking of rookies, let's hear from them.
Well, one of the best Rookie of the Year battles we've seen in recent history in Trans Am is really shaping up nicely. Bobby Sack, what a run for you this afternoon. I mean, you put the pressure on the big boys this afternoon, kept your cool, and come home second.
Well, I tell you, this car was awesome in the rain. I knew it all weekend, really. I was pretty much hoping for a rain race, but I didn't really expect to get this much rain. I didn't want this much rain, but it worked out. You know, Brian and I had a great battle going there. I didn't mean to get into him, but he brake checked me, and I had nothing I could do there. I apologize for hitting him. But this car, the Revolution Motorsports Chevrolet Corvette, was just awesome today. And I'm glad to be standing up here with Jorge. He did a great job, too.
Yeah, let's have a quick chat with him. Jorge, great performance by you, podium finish. I mean, you've been showing a lot of strength this season as well. How do you feel?
I feel great. It was an awesome car. I just want to say thank you to everybody from Puerto Rico that's watching us and everybody back home. I can't believe that we're here. At the end, it was an awesome race with Bobby. He had a better shot, better visibility, and I couldn't pass him at the end. But I'm just so happy to be here, top 3. I can't believe it still.
Great performance, experience on the top spot on the podium, Lee Diffie, but certainly youth and fire on the next 2.
It's great. It's the next generation of Trans Am racers, isn't it? And yes, they do get Speed Channel. They do watch us in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and he will be a hero when we go there later in the year.
Man, he'll be the president before no time at all.
Well, we say farewell to this great man, and what a run in the most atrocious of conditions. P.L. Newman from 10th to 5th, sensational stuff. Bill, final thoughts just quickly?
I'm looking forward to the next race already. I mean, the 2 young rookies who are coming on so strong and driving with such maturity and speed both. We have very equal racing. I've always loved Trans Am, and this is getting better and better.
We're getting right into the meat of the season and the summer. We hope for better weather next time out. On behalf of Brian Till, Calvin Fish, and Bill Adam, I'm Lee Diffie. Thanks for joining us at a very eventful day here at Lime Rock. See you soon.